Hi, I'm Sarah Miller. Delighted to be with you all the way from St. Augustine, Florida. And I will be talking about HMS Florida and Nahar, which I'll get into later in the presentation. But again, excited to be with you all at the CHERISH program today and honor some of the good advice and partnerships that we've had for years and see how it is folded into our program here in Florida. I do want to give a land acknowledgement and respect the elders of the past here in Florida. That includes the Appalachian Nation, the Muskogee Creek Nation, the Miccosukee Tribe of Florida, and the Seminole Tribe of Florida. And in addition, we work in areas where the Gullah Geechee live today, and they are descendants of those brought here enslaved to Florida and other parts of the U.S. Florida Public Archaeology Network, if you've not heard of us before, we go by the acronym FPAN. And in a nutshell, we exist to help protect the state's buried past through education and outreach. There are about 20 of us that work around the state out of 8 regional offices, and we do just under 2,000 events annually. That's workshops, library programs, school visits, and we have just under 100,000 people attend each year, and we work across 67 different counties. In the Northeast East Central office that I am the director of, we have on the left, Emily Jane Murray, Robbie Boggs, and Emma Dietrich. And I just want to give them credit because a lot of times I'm saying I and we, and this is who I mean, is the team. So the problem of climate change and the climate emergency really struck us in 2015. And as I said, FPAN exists to help protect the state's buried past. And at the time, I thought the main threat was development. And it's really emerged that climate crisis, climate change is about our number one, if not number 2 concern of what is taking away our heritage and our sites. This is a famous site here in St. Augustine. It is the Fountain of Youth Park. It is the 1565 Spanish settlement that Kathy Deegan from University of Florida has been studying for years. Also a 6,000-year-old archaic site, and the Timucua Indians had a settlement here as well. So very significant site. You can see the nice blue sky, and the site is completely underwater. So we have issues of rain coming from the sky, from hurricanes, nor'easters, or just rain. We have rain coming, water from coming underneath, with rising groundwater. And here on the sunny day, some of the rain that fell down is trapped from hardscaping done along the shoreline. So it's just a very dynamic thing. It's not just one thing of the sea levels rising, it's just this snowball effect that gets us to our flooded sites along our coast. When we started to address this issue 12, 13 years ago, we started to look, okay, who is doing this? Who is doing this well? Because we do not have time to start things from scratch. So this is kind of my who else is out there slide and who we started to look at. I do want to say in the US, we have site stewardship programs, and we did look to them. They are land managing programs that have volunteers that go out and check on conditions of sites, but they didn't really have that lens of impacted by the climate emergency. And we were looking at a little bit different threat and assessment factors. So we got to know Tom and Joe very well of SCAPE, and was just really blown away at the idea of freeing the points of data and that high level of community engagement. We also looked heavily to other European partners and examples. So thank you to all who participated in the EEA sessions and get-togethers after. And in the lower right, you'll see me and Bill Lees got to go to Dublin and visit CHERISH in their office. There's Ted, Sandra, and Anthony, who were kind enough to meet us and exchange some FPAN swag. I've also had good conversations with Toby Driver and Claire. Toby and I last saw each other at Sea Change and danced as if we knew a pandemic was coming. And unfortunately, no footage is available of the dance floor, nor do I want any. Don't send me the pictures, but always a good time to share professionally and hang out socially, as we just all have a lot in common. So HMS Florida was our response to the climate crisis and how we could engage the public in this topic. It began, as some of you know, as a Google form and a very online piece where we would meet with the public, do some training, have them go out and monitor sites, and then report sites back in. So you can see some of our behind the scenes of our workflow on the right, and as it existed on the left as a landing page that still exists today. And unfortunately, we had really good timing of launching HMS right before Hurricane Matthew and Hurricane Irma. So we have some stunning images of why monitoring is so important to go back to these sites and go back frequently. Here you see a 200-year-old Menorcan well in the background. And in the foreground is a 6,000-year-old archaic shell midden. Now, even today in 2021, that well is in the water. There's water, standing water in between the well and the shoreline. So we saw that much change since 2016 and still today. So at this one site, this is just one case study in Florida. By the numbers, you can see we had 320 contact hours with the sites. We had 71 forms submitted, 23 volunteers, but 220 people engaged, lots of updates to our Florida master site file, workshops, events. So this is just one case study of the larger piece of HMS across Florida. We had a surprise because we did this for public engagement, but the Department of Historical Resources said, you know, this works really well. Could we put the logo on it and use it for land managers monitoring the sites? So we have a land manager portal and now use an ARCHES database, and it works really well. I have some numbers to report to on our land managers later. So traditionally, HMS is us and the scouts on the land and monitoring the sites and them doing it with some autonomy. But we do also, like CHERISH, look at sites that are submerged. So this is one of our submerged HMS workshops we did before the pandemic. We do also have annual summits. We get together and share what we've been doing over the year. I was particularly proud of the 2017 Tidally United that was hosted by the Seminole Tribe of Florida. We had to cancel Tidally United last year, but I'm excited to announce we will have a Tidally United this year in August and have a call for papers coming out soon. And we'll focus on case studies from HMS and our 2-year grant that we've been conducting. We do terrestrial land 3D scanning. Sorry, I'm thinking of the Faro Focus 350S, which would probably not be the number of interest to most. But in the central photo, you see in the town of Hastings, which is a very economically depressed community. This used to be their community center, and this building is no more. So this was threatened in a different way. On the left, we have done 3D scanning of the well that's out at Shell Bluff Landing, and we are hosted by Flagler College. So you can see our archway on our Sketchfab page. We bring that to the arsenal that is HMS. We were lucky to be a part of the Learning from Loss program that Joe and Tom hosted up in Scotland with the Scotland University Insight Institute. So thanks to them, we got to travel all over this great road trip. But the real nugget I took away was these conversations that they had with the community about learning from loss and asking the same 6 questions at least 2 different communities and the professional community, kind of compare answers about what coastal heritage means, who's responsible. So we took this back to Florida. We changed the name so we didn't get bereavement counselors showing up, but community conversations on coastal heritage at risk. And we've done about 6 of these across the state. Some were planned and had to be rescheduled for later in 2021, but it gave us a good opportunity to really listen and see the variation of definitions of heritage of coastal communities, actions people want taken, and that will continue to be something we do as part of HMS. We do have a lot of disasters that strike here in Florida, environmentally and culturally. So we do training for emergency response. On May Day, we typically do an exercise where we come up with an idea of something unfolding that we all have to react to. So we did this a few years ago with the archivists in town. We use Government House as our central place for getting our incident command system up and going, and we were replicating a known scenario of the flooding of the state collections down in the basement. So we evacuated those collections and got those volunteers trained. So if a hurricane comes along or flooding or some other catastrophe, we have a trained group ready to respond. So HMS 2.0, like when last seen, we were just getting ready to launch this 2-year study with substantial funding from the state of Florida. And we had full-time staff, Patty Myers on the left, Cassie Kemp on the right, dedicated to this project. It has really helped us to make more uniform the definitions of the threats we're looking at, also helping communicate that to the scouts. We have an interim report, so there's more consistent reporting across the state. We're able to grab some more state numbers of sites that are in decline and also give our scouts some better guides. So this is just from our interim report, and the final report will be out in October, November. The other thing I wanted to talk about today is NAHAR, North American Heritage at Risk. Because FPAN and HMS is a great response, but it's really limited to the boundaries of Florida as we are state funded. We have this great community engagement piece, but I really don't have the skills to do modeling of what the landscape has looked like, will look like. I don't have the capacity for massive mitigation that some sites may need. So during the pandemic, we got busy. Lindsay Cochran here in the middle, she's at University of Georgia, and Meg Galliard, she's over on the right from South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. And we started a weekly meeting, a family meeting, to start working on some larger grants to export HMS out of Florida and import some of their ideas into Florida. So what that looks like now is a collaborative with a research pipeline. Just going to walk you through what that would be as we're looking to do some case studies to test that pipeline. Objective 1, we want to develop scientifically sound models and looking at the historic ecology, digitizing past records, but also modeling forward what some of the impacts might be by the year 2100. Very excited for that component. 2, implement citizen science and export basically heritage monitoring scouts out to other areas of the country, namely Georgia and South Carolina, but how does that get packaged and fit and adapt to other places? Get that feedback from stakeholder groups. Here we are having one of our meetings with the community about climate at risk, about heritage at risk. But, you know, we want to engage other stakeholders, the Seminole tribe, the Gullah Geechee I mentioned, make sure that when it comes to looking at prioritization, we know prioritization is problematic, but how to make informed decisions and get as much information, diverse information out as possible when those decisions are being made. So then how to fold those first 3 objectives into the process of what will then happen with mitigation. So methodizing is our 4th objective. And then 5th, conduct salvage archaeology. Here you see Meg Pocky Island is one of her sites, South Carolina DNR up at the top. They thought they had till 2025 for this site. This is a site Tom and Joe had visited a couple years ago. And here you see below, this happened during the pandemic, during a pretty normal storm, a huge part of the site was wiped out. So Meg is still gonna go down there and see what the real impacts were of that storm, but it was significant and it happened so fast. So we really need their help to understand some of our sites that are going away rapidly. So North American Heritage at Risk, I invite you even this Friday, May 14th, we will have Eric Kanza from Open Context talking about digital literacy. We have our website there and the same Zoom meeting for all the NAHAR talks. You're welcome to join us. If you wanted any copies of papers where HMS has been published, you can contact me and I can send you some of these, or you can look them up for more information. And thank you very much for having me today, and hope to see you again in person.